So today is the 1st of June and I made a video of our back garden probably about 6 weeks ago, and it's all changed. So many more flowers in bloom now, so I thought I'd do another one and try and make it a little bit shorter as well. So this is our back garden and we've created it. Rob's done most of the creating, I'm just the helper, over the last 18 months, specifically with pollinators and wildlife in mind. So everything we've done we hope will attract wildlife to our garden, and it has done. So this was just a lawn, what you can see here, when we moved in. And we rent this property, so it's quite a, sometimes you think, God, is it worth it with a rented property? But it is. You only live once. And anyway, if and when we have to move, we'll leave it behind us. So there was this little pond here when we moved in. It was just in the lawn, and it's great. I've seen damselflies in the last couple of days laying eggs in there, and newts as well. Really obvious, the first thing here is that foxgloves have taken over. This is like my dream. I've always wanted a garden that gets taken over by foxgloves, and they actually just arrived by themselves. I think the seeds must have been in the compost that we put on it. There was a big old pile of compost when we moved in at the bottom of the garden, and must have been full of foxglove seeds. But in between the foxgloves, we have, well, foxgloves have come later. We've planted mostly perennials, and this is a perennial bed. There are a few native wildflowers in it, but mostly in this bed it's perennials that we know are good for bees and butterflies and other insects. And I just show you this one. This one, everybody asks about this one. This is gorgeous. This is called tree lupin. It's a tree lupin, and they come in yellow or this purple, purpley and white. Oh, I can see a blue mason bee. And the thing about this, what I've noticed with this one, I'm going to see if I can whiz in on the bee. No, of course she's going to go. But what the bees do here, and it's been fascinating to watch, is they come along and they kind of, there you go, prise open the bottom sort of two petals that are joined up to each other, and a little, here you go, a little spike pops out. You see against, see if I can get it against the foxglove. It looks like a little black thorn. I can't see it through the viewfinder, but there. And that spike is covered in bright orange pollen. So when I've seen bees working this plant, they tend to bend themselves double around this little spike and to collect the pollen, which is interesting. So, and I've seen a lot of different bee species on it, so it's a great plant. And then coming further down the garden path, so this is a piece of corrugated iron that we've put here for slow worms and grass snakes, because we have some grass snakes in the garden. And it's hot, basically. It's in full sun, and both of those are cold-blooded creatures, so it helps to warm them up so they can function. A little bit further down, I just want to come down to another plant. We've got loads and loads of nepetas, salvias, lots of Mediterranean herbs, marjorams, oreganos. These are California poppies, these beautiful orange plants. And I don't know if you can hear, but there is a particular bee that I want to introduce you to. And here it is. And I can't see through the viewfinder whether this is a male or a female, but it is a wool carder bee. Oh, there's another little tiny solitary bee on the leaf down here. But the thing about this plant, this is lamb's ears, and female solitary woolcarder bees use the beautiful hairs on the leaves. They card them, that's why they're called woolcarders, and they use the hairs to make a little, like a little wallet, a minuscule little wallet about the size of my little fingernail, even smaller actually, and they fill that with pollen and they lay an egg in it, and so they're basically using what nature has provided to make a very lovely soft nest for their larvae to hatch out in. So we've got bumblebee here. And the woolcarder males are not really doing what they usually do today, that they patrol. You can see them, there's one down here, see if we can catch him. Hello. So what they usually do, they just must be too hot, is they patrol the lamb's ear. You might catch them doing it. And if they do see a bumblebee or any other bee on their patch, because this is their patch, they knock them off. They knock them off because they want... Oh yeah, see what happens here, look. I don't know if you caught that, but you chased her off. So yeah, very territorial bees. I absolutely love them. And I've also seen on this plant, and again, I don't know if you can see, if the viewfinder will find it, but there, on this leaf here, I'll go forward, I'll zoom in if I can. Maybe it's better if I just make the camera go closer. So these are Shieldbug eggs. I know this because I photographed them and asked on Twitter. I found quite a few clutches of Shieldbug eggs on the lamb's ears. And also, the bumblebees love it. See, that deep noise is a bumblebee, but the high-pitched, frantic noise is a woolcarder. The other thing I've found is, and again I know this from asking on Twitter, see, look on these leaves. These tiddly little black specks that I know as thunderflies are actually called thrips. Thrips. Oh, and look, here is a newly hatched out Shieldbug. I just know this is going to be blurred. Let's see. You can see it's a little clutch of eggs. And the other thing I discovered when I was trying to get these identified is that one way you can tell if the eggs are Shieldbug eggs is that they lay them in clutches, in multiples of 7. So, and I've been counting, and most of the clutches are 7, 14, and I did find one of 21. And I can also see, just here, where is she? A bumblebee that's absolutely still. And I'm wondering, hopefully, yes, okay, I was wondering whether that could have been a crab spider, because I've seen crab spiders lurking on the lamb's ear too, and crab spiders are very small spiders, but basically look like crabs, and they lie on the plants. Oh, I love all of this, waiting for unsuspecting insects to come and collect nectar or pollen, and then they pounce and they inject a kind of a fluid into them, which is pretty grim. I think it yeah, I'm not even going to say what it does, but you end up with dead bees and very full up crab spiders. So that's the lamb's ears, and you'll notice it's quite a large patch. This is a really good thing to do if you're planting for bees or any insects that visit flowering plants. Then it's good to plant huge, great big patches instead of a little bit here and a little bit there, because then they don't have to use as much energy to get from A to B, especially if they're foraging for pollen, in which case they like to visit the same plant, the same flowering plant, one after each other. So that's useful. Okay, over here is our wildlife pond, work in progress, and oh, I was hoping he'd be there, and he is. So if you see, so there's already a lot of life underneath the water. And can you see, I'll come round, there's a perch here. See something moving, he's going to come back. This perch we put in especially because somebody told me that, oh look, dragonflies like perches, the male dragonflies like perches to come and sit on. And here is a beautiful male broad-bodied chaser. Gosh, he's so pretty. And I know that there's been at least 2 of them because there you go. See, this one is stunning. He's gorgeous. But the yellow bits on the sides of his abdomen, I can see 2 or 3 yellow bits there, bright yellow bits. But the male that I photographed last week, I can see another damselfly down there. They were much brighter, so there must be 2. And I've also noticed the female of this species, the female broad-bodied chaser, that's it, she's been laying her eggs in the pond as well. I can see a wasp down there, a blue damselfly. I don't really know my dragonflies and damselflies very well. And then we've got underneath the water there are newts. Oh, he's incredible. I love him. Newts, water boatmen that are flipping around on the surface. There's a couple of great diving beetles, dragonfly larvae, all sorts. Oh, water snails just arrived from nowhere. The honeybees love to come down to the shoreline here. So this is a nice safe place for bees to collect water without drowning. It's very bright. There, can you see maybe not, the damselfly. And we've got, we've only put native pond plants in the pond. Again, that's something we've tried very hard to think about. So that's the pond. One last plant, and I'm going to stop, and that is this yellow one. This is wild mignonette, and there are a lot of honeybees on it at the moment. But, oh, look at this. I also see, he's just having a little rest on the foxglove, lots of tiny little solitary bees. So it's a great plant for bees, and the other lovely thing about it is that it seems to flower for months and months and months. So it's already been flowering since early April, and last year there were still flowers. It was still flowering and attracting pollinators in August. So it's a good plant. So I'm going to stop there. This is our view from the bottom of the garden. So it's our new shed, Rob's new shed, new old shed, and that's it. So I'm going to go see if I can upload this now, and then I'll do another one in a little while, in a few more weeks.